Welcome to the Deep Dive Lab, where we dive deep into fascinating science stories filled with surprising discoveries, unexpected twists, and thought-provoking ideas. Have you ever walked into a room with a crystal clear purpose, only to cross the threshold and just completely forget why you went in there?
Oh, yeah. Like every day.
Right. It's so frustrating. Or actually, maybe even stranger.
Yeah.
Have you ever vividly remembered a childhood event? Like, the exact color of the balloons at a birthday party
Yeah.
or the specific pop song playing in the
A
background.
taste of the cake, yeah.
Exactly. But then you watch a home video of it years later and you realize your memory was just a complete fabrication. The balloons were a different color. The song was completely different. You weren't even standing where you thought you were.
It's a really Mind is, well, kind of an unreliable narrator.
Exactly.
I mean, we rely on our memories to anchor our entire sense of reality,
Yeah.
our sense of identity. And when you catch your brain in a lie like that, it it forces you to question what else might just be a neurological mirage.
We really like to think of our brains as these high-definition video recorders. Like, they're meticulously archiving everything on a hard drive. But today, we're going to completely dismantle that idea from the ground up.
We really are.
We are exploring a groundbreaking July 2026 paper published in Nature Neuroscience, and the research comes from a team at the Friedrich Miescher Institute for Biomedical Research in Switzerland. Specifically, researchers Wenbin Yang, Benedetta Zatera, Miguel Pavan Delgado, and Johannes Felsenberg.
And what this team has uncovered fundamentally shifts our understanding of how memory works at a cellular level. I mean, they didn't just observe behavior, right? They mapped the exact biological circuits of how we forget, how we remember, and, most importantly, how our brains can be tricked into inventing something entirely new.
Right, the core mystery we're unraveling in this deep dive is this. What if forgetting doesn't actually mean a memory is erased? What if instead that memory is just like moved to a hidden, inaccessible folder in your brain?
Right.
And perhaps most terrifyingly, what happens if a specific reminder accidentally opens the wrong file? Like generating a vivid biological memory of a trauma that never actually happened to you.
It's wild. But to understand the mechanics of how these researchers answered those questions, we first have to look at what scientists originally believed about memory decay. And they used fruit flies for this. Drosophila melanogaster.
Fruit flies are honestly the unsung heroes of neuroscience.
Oh, absolutely. Their brains are small enough that we can map almost every single neural connection, but they're still complex enough to teach us about the architecture of our own minds.
Right. So, okay, what was the baseline here?
So the baseline for fruit fly memory research involves this classic behavioral experiment. Just imagine a tiny specialized chamber shaped like a T. It's called a T maze. The researchers place the flies inside and expose them to a specific odor. Let's call it odor A.
That's okay. Odor A. Got it.
And while the flies smell odor A, they receive a mild electric shock through the floor of the chamber. Following that, they get a break with some clean air, and then they're exposed to odor B, which is totally safe, no shock.
Classic Pavlovian conditioning, right?
Mm-hmm.
So odor A is the paired, dangerous smell. And odor B is the unpaired, safe smell.
Exactly. And if you test them immediately afterward by giving them a choice in the maze between moving toward odor A or odor B, they will just scramble away from odor A.
Because they learned the association.
Right. They learned it. But the researchers didn't just watch them run. By looking inside the fly's memory center, which is called the mushroom body, they could actually see this learning happen in real time.
Wow. Really? Like physically see it.
Yeah. The trauma physically depresses the activity in a specific neural pathway that controls approach behavior.
Okay, so let's call that pathway the active memory trace.
Yeah.
Like it's the physical wiring that screams at the fly, run away from this smell.
The active memory trace, that is the perfect label. Now, here is what scientists originally believed based on decades of observation. If you wait 24 hours and test those exact same flies again, they show absolutely no preference.
Wait, really?
Yeah, they don't avoid odor A anymore. And when scientists looked at that active memory trace in the brain, the physical depression was just gone. The neural activity had completely returned to baseline, so the biological assumption was simple and logical. The memory simply faded away. The file was deleted from the hard drive.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the researchers in this paper noticed an anomaly that completely contradicted that assumption.
They sure did.
The file wasn't deleted at all, was it? The
Right.
flies didn't actually lose the memory.
Right. They discovered they could bring the forgotten memory back. But only under very strict specific conditions. So they expose the flies to reminders.
Reminders. How does that work for a fly?
They placed the flies back into the exact same training chamber and gave them 3 brief exposures to odor A, but this time without any electric shocks.
Okay, so just the smell of danger, but no actual danger.
Exactly. And when they tested the flies an hour later, the forgotten memory came rushing back. The flies avoided odor A just as strongly as they did right after they were first trained.
That is crazy.
And that active memory trace we talked about, it physically reappeared in the brain circuitry.
Oh, wow. It reminds me of forgetting a computer password for days.
Yeah.
You try to picture it in your head, and it's just gone. Total blank.
Yeah. The worst.
But the moment you sit in your specific office chair at your specific desk, and you just rest your hands on that specific keyboard muscle memory takes over, and you just type it perfectly without even thinking.
That is a brilliant analogy. The context provides the key. Because the researchers found that just giving the flies the odor in any random environment, that wasn't enough. The environment had to match the original trauma perfectly.
Wait, so, like, the actual physical room mattered?
Oh, completely. If they changed the lighting in the room from light to dark during the reminder, the memory didn't come back.
You're kidding.
Nope. If they removed the electric grid from the floor of the chamber so the texture was smooth instead of bumpy, the memory didn't come back.
So the key to unlocking the forgotten memory requires both the smell and the physical context.
Yeah.
But, and here's the thing, this creates a massive biological contradiction, doesn't it?
It really does.
Because the active memory trace in the brain had completely decayed after 24 hours. We saw that. The connection was gone. So where was this memory hiding for a full day? I mean, how do you recover a file that you can visibly see has been deleted from the active hard drive?
Right, that was the big question. So to hunt for this hidden memory, the team used advanced 2-photon calcium imaging.
Which is what? Exactly.
It's this amazing technology that lets them watch individual neurons fire. They just light up like tiny bulbs as the fly experiences the world.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they monitored the entire memory center over that 24-hour period, and they discovered something incredible. As the active memory trace in the avoidance pathway fades over those first few hours, a completely new parallel memory trace slowly emerges in an entirely different part of the brain.
Wait, so it creates a backup drive?
Essentially, yes. The researchers found this new trace in a specific pair of neurons, and they termed it a silent memory trace.
A silent memory trace. I like that.
Yeah, this silent vault holds the information. It preserves the association between the odor and the shock, while the active system just goes completely back to baseline.
Okay, wait, I have to push it back here logically. If this silent trace is sitting in a behaviorally neutral part of the brain, meaning like it doesn't connect to the motor systems that make the fly move, how does it ever make the fly actually run away from the odor again?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right, because storing the memory in a vault is useless if the vault has no physical connection to the fly's legs.
Okay.
What bridges the gap?
So that gap is bridged by a very specific set of dopaminergic neurons. We can call them the recovery neurons. And a really good way to visualize this entire system is to think of these recovery neurons as the bouncers at a very exclusive club.
Okay, I love a good club analogy. Tell me more.
Okay, so the active memory trace, the part that actually makes the fly run away, is the VIP section of the club. The silent memory is stuck outside, it can't get in. And the recovery neurons are the bouncers standing at the door, holding the velvet rope, just checking IDs.
So what does the ID check actually look like in a fly brain?
Well, the bouncers receive signals from another part of the brain called the lateral horn, which processes all the background contextual information.
Oh, like the environment.
Exactly. It processes the texture of the floor, the temperature, the lighting of the room. So the lateral horn walks up to the bouncer and says, hey, the floor is bumpy, the lights are on, and we smell odor A.
And the bouncer checks that against the VIP list.
Right. The bouncer checks that information against the original traumatic event. And because the context matches perfectly, the bouncer unhooks the velvet rope. They unlock the silent memory, pull it back into the active avoidance pathway, and the fly remembers to run away.
That is so cool. And the researchers actually proved this gating mechanism through a brilliantly diabolical experiment.
Oh, it was so clever. They used a temperature-sensitive genetic switch called DTRPA1.
Sounds intense. What does that do?
By breeding flies with this specific genetic tool, they could artificially force those bouncer neurons to activate just by raising the ambient temperature above 25 degrees Celsius.
Wait, so it's essentially a biological remote control for the bouncers?
Exactly. They could completely bypass the ID check.
Oh my gosh. So what happened?
They put the trained flies into a totally different context, like a smooth tube instead of the bumpy shock chamber. Now, normally, because the context is wrong, giving the reminder odor wouldn't recover the memory at all. The bouncer would say no.
Right, because the floor isn't bumpy.
Exactly. But while playing the odor, they turned up the heat. They artificially activated that genetic switch in the recovery neurons, and it worked. The flies suddenly remembered to avoid the odor, even though the context was completely wrong.
That's wild. The physical room didn't matter anymore because the researchers forced the gate open biologically?
Yep. They hacked the system.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting and honestly slightly spooky. Because once they figured out how to recover a true memory, they asked a very dangerous question.
Oh, yeah. They asked, what happens if we manipulate the reminder?
Right, so we crossed from memory recovery into memory manipulation, which, psychologists have known for decades that human memory is suggestible. But seeing the physical wiring of inception at a cellular level is entirely different.
It really is. So let's lay out the setup for this next experiment. It's 24 hours after training. The flies have forgotten the trauma. The researchers put the flies back into the correct context, the shock chamber with the bumpy floor and the right lighting. But this time, for the reminder, they don't play odor A, the dangerous smell.
Oh boy.
Instead, they play odor B.
The explicitly safe odor, the smell that was never associated with the electric shocks during training.
Exactly. They give the flies 3 reminders of this safe smell while they are sitting in the dangerous room, and then an hour later they test the flies. And the flies have suddenly developed a severe biological phobia of the safe smell. They sprint away from odor B as if they had been repeatedly shocked while smelling it.
Wow. The researchers successfully implanted a false memory into the brain of a living organism.
They did. But, the creation of a false memory is startling, but the true breakthrough is how the false memory was created physically in the brain.
Because the logical assumption is that a false memory is just, a glitch in the existing system, a crossed wire.
Right. If we go back to the club analogy, you would assume the bouncer just got confused by the familiar room, checked the ID poorly, and accidentally let the wrong memory into the VIP section.
Right. Like if you give a confusing reminder, the true recovery neurons just open the wrong file.
But when the researchers genetically blocked those true recovery neurons, basically firing the bouncers entirely, the true memories couldn't be recovered anymore, which makes sense.
Right.
Yet the false memories were still generated.
Wait, really? That is wild.
It reveals that false memory formation isn't a glitch in the true memory pathway at all. It is gated by an entirely different set of neurons. The brain has a completely separate pathway, a distinct cluster of dopaminergic neurons specifically dedicated to building these false associations.
So there's a completely separate set of bouncers working a completely different tour.
Exactly. True memory recovery and false memory formation are distinct biological processes. They are wired into different physical pathways.
Okay, so the systems are entirely separable. When the fly is in a familiar, dangerous context but smells something new, this distinct false memory pathway actively bridges the new smell to the existing silent fear trace.
Yes. It is a dedicated physical bridge for guilt by association.
Which, forces us to ask a really profound question. Why would biology build an entirely separate, dedicated wiring system just to create fake memories?
It's a great question.
Like, why would evolution expend precious biological energy to build a machine that essentially lies to you?
Well, if we pull back and look at the bigger picture, this challenges our fundamental assumptions about the purpose of the brain. We tend to view a false memory as a broken brain, right? A system failure. We think of memory as a filing cabinet, and a false memory is a misfiled paper.
Right.
But biology doesn't typically build complex, dedicated neural pathways for system failures. It builds them for survival.
Okay, so what does this all mean for you and me, like as humans navigating the world with these reconstructive brains?
First and foremost, it provides hard cellular proof that memory is an active reconstructive process. Every single time you remember something, you are not pressing play on a video file. You are actively rebuilding that memory from scratch in real time. You pull from silent traces in the vault, and your brain heavily relies on the current context and environmental cues around you to glue the pieces together.
Okay, it's almost like having a giant box of Lego bricks. The silent memory, is all the disconnected bricks sitting in a box in the closet.
I like where this is going.
And when you get a reminder, your brain just dumps the box on the floor and frantically tries to build the spaceship you remember from yesterday. But if someone hands you a pirate ship flag while you're building it, like a misleading contextual cue, your brain just seamlessly snaps it on.
Exactly.
Suddenly, you vividly remember building a pirate spaceship. And to you, it feels completely real because you literally just built it.
That is a perfect way to describe it. And that biological reality explains the vulnerability behind some very serious, high-stakes societal issues. The authors of the paper explicitly point this out. Human memory is highly susceptible to suggestive cues because our brains are wired with these reconstructive pathways.
Right, like this is the exact mechanism that leads to false eyewitness testimonies in a courtroom.
Yes, exactly. If a witness is brought into a highly suggestive environment or introduced to misleading cues by an attorney, their brain might utilize this distinct neural pathway to actively reconstruct a detailed, vivid biological memory of an event that never occurred.
They aren't lying. Their brain just built the pirate spaceship.
They believe it completely.
Yeah.
The same mechanism applies to certain types of suggestive therapeutic practices, too. I mean, there are well-documented cases where patients have, quote-unquote, recovered highly detailed memories of traumatic childhood events that were later proven by external evidence to be entirely fabricated.
Because the therapist's office, the tone of voice, the leading questions, they all act as contextual reminders acting on the brain's silent traces.
Right, physically dictating how the memory is rebuilt using that alternate neural pathway.
But we have to return to the core evolutionary question here. Why is the brain built to be this vulnerable? If remembering things wrong can put innocent people in jail or destroy families, how is this an evolutionary advantage?
The authors offer a really brilliant evolutionary reframe on this. Retaining information in a silent state and then flexibly reconstructing it based on new environmental cues is actually highly adaptive.
How so?
Well, think about an early human or a wild animal navigating a dangerous, unpredictable environment. Imagine an animal encounters a predator near a specific riverbank. It stores that memory. A week later, it returns to that riverbank. The context matches perfectly. But this time, it smells a completely new, unfamiliar odor.
Instead of odor A, it smells odor B.
Right. It might be vastly safer for the animal's brain to use that separate, dedicated pathway to erroneously associate that new odor with danger than to wait around and see if it actually belongs to a new predator.
Oh, wow. It's better to be safe and wrong than accurate and dead.
Exactly. The brain holds on to the silent information, the danger of the riverbank, and flexibly integrates it with recent experiences, like the new smell. It creates a memory system that allows the organism to adapt to shifting probabilities in the real world on the fly.
That makes so much sense.
In the wild, guilt by association keeps you alive. It's a feature, not a bug.
Which leads to the most tantalizing speculation at the very end of this paper. The researchers suggest that this exact mechanism, this flexible reconstruction of memories, taking past contexts and mixing them with new cues to create something that didn't strictly happen, might be the biological foundation of human creativity.
I love this part because creativity at its core is the synthesis of stored information in novel ways, right?
Yeah.
To invent something new, you have to break apart your stored memories and combine them with new, unrelated cues. The neural architecture that allows a fruit fly to erroneously associate a safe odor with a dangerous context might be the primitive ancestor of the exact same neural architecture that allows a human being to imagine a dragon.
By combining the memory of a lizard, a bat, and fire.
Exactly.
That completely reframes how I view my own brain. Okay, to wrap up this deep dive into the sources, let's distill this complex biology down to 3 key takeaways. First, forgetting isn't erasure. Just because you can't actively remember a detail doesn't mean it's gone.
Right. Your brain safeguards information by transferring it to a dormant, silent vault in a neutral part of the brain.
Second, reminders can rescue these lost memories, but only if the environmental context acts as the right key. Context is everything.
It's the bouncer checking the ID, matching the physical environment to the silent trace before letting the memory back into the active network.
And third, your memory is highly biologically suggestible. Different reminder cues can physically wire false memories into your brain. And importantly, they do so using entirely distinct, dedicated neural pathways. Your brain is actively built to reconstruct reality, not just record it.
Which brings us full circle to the home video and the fabricated childhood memory from the beginning.
Yes. The next time you confidently misremember a detail from your past or insist a conversation happened a certain way when it didn't, don't be frustrated with yourself. Don't think of your brain as a broken hard drive. Think of it as an overly enthusiastic storyteller.
Yeah, it's constantly trying to protect you and make sense of the world by weaving the past and present together into something useful. It is functioning exactly as millions of years of evolution designed it to.
So we will leave you with this final provocative thought to ponder. If the neurological machinery that generates false memories is the exact same machinery that allows for cognitive flexibility and creativity, if it's the exact same machinery, would a brain with a perfect infallible memory actually lose its ability to create art, imagine the future, or solve novel
It's
problems?
like a crazy thought.
Are our greatest human achievements only possible because we have the capacity to remember things wrong? Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the unknown. If you want to keep exploring the inner workings of our strange, wonderful world, make sure to follow and subscribe. See you next time.